people want passion, not knowing that a level of passion is also toxicity.
The problem with premarital sex, this is why God never wanted for us to have sex outside of marriage. Because once you've experienced things that you should have only experienced within wedlock, you develop preferences. So when you meet a really good woman, she's everything you need, but she can't turn it up in the bedroom like that freak.
Your soul ties, they're like a shackle, and they bind you to the previous person that you were just intimate with. That's what soul ties are. So when you're married, you're bound, you're spiritually bound. Your soul is tied to your husband, your soul is tied to your wife. That is the way that God intended for it to be. But when you are just frivolously, or even when you think you're in a relationship and you think that it's a sound relationship, but then you exit that relationship and you go into another relationship, you're still stacking on soul ties on top of soul ties. And it's difficult to navigate who you're looking for or what you're looking for in a spouse, because the foundation is now more physical. Now you're wanting to have a snippet of the physical interaction that you had with the last person.
You may pass up on your soulmate because she can't please you like the freak. And a lot of people have lost out on good relationships because they didn't come with freak of the week talent. And that's why with plural marriage, if we decided to start marrying our children before sex, it could be a good thing if you got healthy parents making a decision, because guess what? If my daddy choose my wife, she's the only woman I ever felt, taste, touch. You understand? You always going to be content because you ain't had nothing else. But if you've been with 5 or 6 freaks and dad say, I got a wife for you, you're like, you got a problem. Wait a minute. I got to test them out first.
Right.
And too often people are letting sex be the determinant, and we shouldn't be. I've had women, sisters admit it. Dr. Umar, I should have married him, but he couldn't turn it up in the bedroom. And I went with my first love, and it was the worst decision that I made. We given sex too much room. And I believe one of the reasons sex is taking up too much space when it comes to choosing our life mate is we are not spiritually grounded. You're over relying on pleasure. If your relationship with supreme consciousness was where it needed to be, pleasure would not be so prominent in your life. But because you don't have that relationship with God that you need, pleasure is carrying too much weight. And that's a big problem with a lot of us.
Wow.
Soul ties is a real thing. I can't say it enough. I think Dr. Umar is spot on with this. Everything is spiritual, and I think that the lack of acknowledging how spiritual sex is the reason why a lot of people do not know what they're looking for in these relationships. It's also the reason why a lot of people remain in stagnant, broken, abusive relationships. I'm even going to throw that part in there. People remain in these fruitless relationships because of the physical pleasures, and they take that and they think that this type of spunk, this is what is normal. And they begin to, when they do meet someone that, let's say you meet someone who's not with the drama, they're not with all of this other toxic traits that you experienced previously in your past relationship, but you just began to think that it was normal because you like the sexual side of things. So you just thought that that was a package deal, under the guidelines of passion, right? People want passion, not knowing that a level of passion is also toxicity. So now you get into another situation or another relationship with someone who could potentially be who the Father wants you to be with, but because they're not rooted in that type of what you're deeming as passion, because it's arguing, it's fighting, it's coupled with sex, it's coupled with all of these other things that now you have an appetite for, you can't see the forest for the trees because now you're used to toxic relationships. And that is indeed the number one issue when it comes to male-female dynamic is that a lot of people have normalized what it means to be in toxic relationships, and when they meet someone that is not in that same, you know, realm of toxicity. So they meet a woman who don't yell, she don't argue, she ain't trying to fight you, she not trying to go through your phone. You meet a man where he's not insecure, he's not trying to have sex with you. You know, these are things that people look at and they say, oh, this is a red flag. Why is it a red flag? It's a red flag because that's what you're used to. You know, I know women now to where if they met a man and that man wasn't trying to have sex with her, she would view that as a red flag. Why would that be a red flag? When he could be interested in something other than your body, which is your mind, but because you're only used to leading with your body, then it's abnormal for a man to be interested in something other than your body.